You are listening to Small Business Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives small business owners the straight talk on productivity, time management, business systems, leading your teams, strategic decision-making, and mindset. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the productivity specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Small Business Straight Talk podcast. Today is episode 399, From Near Death to 55 Million in Sales, Behind the Business with Kris Dehnert. If you're a small business owner who wants to learn effective business strategies, improve time management, and elevate productivity to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Today, you get to meet our guest, Kris Dehnert. Kris is a bold, no BS entrepreneur who turned a wild idea, transforming baseball bats into drinkware, into a powerhouse brand with over 55 million in sales, Dugout Mugs. A 3-time Inc. 5000 honoree, he's a master of sales, branding, and e-commerce with a knack for networking, understanding people, delivering unforgettable customer experiences, and creating products that sell themselves. But behind the accolades is a man who nearly lost his life, an experience that forced a radical shift in his definition of success. Now he chooses the happy over the hustle, builds lifestyle-first businesses, and teaches others to do the same. And that is exactly why I invited him on to do this Behind the Business series. And look, we're at episode 399. And if you don't know, Crystal is my content manager who does all the magic behind the scenes of the production of the podcast. And when she listened to this episode and prepped me for intro and outros, she's like, this was an amazing episode. And I don't always get that from her, but I thought the same thing. And when I interviewed Kris, I was already working on writing last week's episode that you heard, the one question that changes everything in your business and life. And I could not believe how much alignment there was in having you get to hear how that one question will change everything. And in today's episode, you're going to hear actual behind the scenes, the real story of how Kris asked that same one question of himself on his deathbed. Today's episode and last week's episode 398 make a great unofficial mini-series because they go hand in hand. So if you have not already listened to 398, you may want to hit pause, go and listen to 398, then come back and listen to 399. Before we jump in, if you have not already done so, I do not know what you're waiting for, but I'm not sure if there's anything more productive than taking a short 3-minute quiz to find out what is most holding you back in your business. If you understand where you are hitting a roadblock, then you can get a curated playlist of specific episodes that address your challenges that you're dealing with actionable strategies that you can implement right away. There are 399 episodes. You do not need to listen to all of them. More is not better. Being very careful with where you're investing your time based on your current challenges is going to be the way that you're actually able to move your business forward. So do not hesitate, hit pause, and head on over to amberdelagarza.com/quiz. And now let's meet our guest and get to the straight talk. Welcome, Kris. Thank you so much for being here today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Another day living the dream.
That's right. We're going to talk about how you get to live the dream now, and it wasn't always what it is today.
No.
I just began doing these Behind the Biz series on our podcast, and You are the first person that I've done this with that I didn't know. We literally met a couple minutes ago. But your team did a really good job reaching out and sharing a bit about your story. And I thought that it was very interesting. So we're going to dive into behind the biz. And first, I want to start off with, actually, I'm going to throw you a curveball. Share with us a little bit about what the business is today. Like, what is the day-to-day? What does your team look like? And then I want to take us all the way back to, when did you know you were going to be a business owner? And we're just going to kind of travel through some of those experiences, behind the biz, struggles, wins from there. So in your own words, Kris, what does a day in the life look like now for you and your company, Dugout?
So Dugout Mugs, we take the barrel of a baseball bat and we hollow it out and turn it into a drinking mug. That's the premise of what we do. And a day of mine now usually starts with me taking my kids to school, finally getting into some emails around 10 o'clock in the morning. Try to make sure the middle of my day stays open. So if there's a golf meeting or a lunch meeting or something like that I get to go do, and then I'm usually done by 3 o'clock when I pick my kids up from school. So like I said, now it's kind of like living the dream. I get to do what I want with whom I want. And that's obviously, family and friends. And I run a really cool business. And, so the conversations I'm having are with some really neat people about some really cool projects and big companies and big brands and things like that. So again, it didn't start that way. It is that way now because we built it that way. And this was the vision we had for a very long time, but bringing a vision to fruition is a whole nother story and journey and much longer than what I just shared. But that's pretty much what it is now. Is I try to have fewer, bigger, better conversations with fewer, bigger, better people.
Yeah.
And
More
just surrounding
strategic.
myself with good folks. Yeah. I mean, I've always said it, and if anybody's ever heard me on other podcasts, they probably heard it. And it's a good day with bad people still sucks, but a bad day with good people can still be awesome, right? So I think the people whom we live with, in all sense of the word, is the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you shared that you are far more strategic, it sounds like, with how and who you're spending your time with. And that,
Oh yeah.
I want to get back to, obviously, I don't want to spoil it. We're going to come back to what it is now. But my curious mind just says, like, that was a huge transformation. I'm assuming 3 years of entrepreneurship, of having that certainty and confidence and clarity about what is the right things and people to be investing your time in.
Yeah, I think it comes down to time, right?
Mhm.
And I am fiercely aggressive and protective of my time. When people want a meeting, what are we going to discuss? Why do we want to chat? Like, what's in it? Like, what are we trying to accomplish? And can it get done in 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Right. I'm not putting a damn hour-long thing. Just yesterday, I was on LinkedIn and I was talking with a lady who's awesome. Like, she's awesome. And she's like, hey, send me your calendar link. And I've done posts about it. It's like, dude, I don't have a calendar link. I never will have a calendar link. It's to me, it's wild to think that somebody else has the ability to claim hours in my day with or without me knowing. Like, that's bizarre, right?
Yeah.
So again, maybe I'm off the other deep end, but 10 years ago, I had a life-threatening experience that nearly took all my time. And when you come out of the other side of that, you realize how precious it actually is. So the people that waste time with God, everything, just wasting time all the time. If you protect your time, you get to choose what to do with it. And maybe you choose to go watch a football game for 5 hours or 7 hours on a Sunday, whatever, right? But like, I choose to take that time back and do what I want with it. So that's really the kind of the nucleus of my life is how do I protect my time so that I can spend it how I want, because we have very little of it.
That is amazing and beautiful. That is exactly what we talk about. Before my podcast was called Small Business Straight Talk, it was called Productivity Straight Talk. And really, it was many, many years of talking about how to value our most precious resource, which is time. And it wasn't productivity in the sense of how to get more done, while that was part of it. It was really about how do you build a business that honors both who you are personally and who you are professionally, that it's not, raw, you're not chasing the success to rob you of your health, your relationships, your personal time. So you really, really nailed that. I want to just have a testimonial. I have been podcasting since 2017, and I can attest to what you just said. We got an email from someone on your team, I'm assuming your assistant, and it was very, very clear and it summarized. So Kris is going to be talking about this for this long, and this is what you need from him, and this is what's going to happen. And I thought, oh my gosh, I had goosebumps. I was like, I've never received that from a guest ever. And it was your team confirming what exactly was going to happen, what exactly needed to happen, and for how long I had you for. And I thought, they're nailing it. That was great.
Yeah, it's time. And there's a whole other talk I do, and I don't think we'll get too deep into it, but it's just currency in general. And it's not just dollars. There's time, there's fulfillment, there's experiential living, there's just all these things that I find is true currency. And time is right up at the top of that list.
Absolutely.
So spending minutes like I'm spending dollars or hundreds of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, staying dialed in is important.
So you didn't always know and understand that at your core. You didn't operate your business and your life that way as you do now. So let's just jump back to before we hit record, you shared with me that you have owned 9 businesses. So how far back did you know that you were going to be a business owner, an entrepreneur?
Well, I'm pretty unemployable. I think that's when it really hit me is I'm a wild card. I say what I want when I want, and I'm unapologetically authentic, and it just feels good to me to be exactly who I am and dress how I want and say what I want. And that's not very compatible to corporate world. But damn, I was good, right? Like when it came to sales, marketing, branding, just sales strategy. I still do consulting, to this day. If it's like a cool person, a cool project, I'll do like little 90-day, agreements where I just do like strategy and structure and marketing and branding, and then hand it back to them. And it kind of keeps me sharp, honestly. I love it. But that's when I really figured it out is when I realized, damn it, I can't work for anybody. If it will be, it's up to me. Right. And, but I think the longest job I ever had was at Gold's Gym, and the owner was very flexible on what he let me do and how he let me operate. And in turn, I was top sales 18 months in a row at one point. So yeah, like, he was more interested in the result than the methods on me getting there. And
you being so
that,
good,
that kind of freedom was it was very liberating. And I was like, well, shit, I can't. I remember this guy, Brian, told me, he's like, dude, the owner's not going to step aside. You've gone as far as you can go. I'm like, well, all right, well, then I quit. And that's when I did. I quit in 2008, April Fool's Day, 2008.
And it sounds like you had bigger ambitions, but when you quit, did you know what you were going into, or you're like, done, I'm going to figure it out next?
No, a buddy of mine, Mike, shout out Mike, if you're listening. He and I started a company in the real estate space. In 2008, real estate, as everybody knows, was absolute chaos. However, we were doing short sales,
Oh, so you were on the right side of you were on the right side of the real estate. Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to fall in stuff and come out smelling like roses sometimes, but I think that's just because I'm too naive and stubborn to fail. And diligence or just endurance and durability and all these, pick your adjective, right? Like, this is what makes people successful. You're going to get beat to hell, but get up, shut up. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody cares what you're whining about. Just shut up and get back to work.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I'm curious because I was also in real estate and short sales around that time. So I'm just curious. So how you navigated from selling at Gold's Gym, you are now selling to get contract, like relationships with banks. Is that the side that you're on, where you're selling in a whole different way to get these accounts?
Life is about relationships. Everything is about relationships. So what I did is, I don't know how much I'm allowed to divulge, but there were some certain banks that had certain secondary loans, and some of these guys loved sporting events and loved this and that. So they would always have end zone tickets to the sporting events. And whenever houses would come available with that bank. I'm like, hey, tell me what the real number is. And they're like, it's here. I was like, I'll send in a contract today. And short sales take like 4, 5, 6 months. Mine were taking 4, 5, 6 days. And instead of the back and forth, I know what my numbers are. I create relationships, right? I'm transparent and I create relationships, real ones. And when you have, there's nothing better than a network in any business, in life, in anything. It's about who you know, and more importantly, who knows you. When you call, do they pick up the phone? That's a big difference between, the people that name drop. Oh, I know so and so. Yeah, but do they know you? Are they going to actually answer if you call and know who the hell you are? So in real estate, what I did is I focused on relationships, fewer, bigger, better, and it worked out in my favor. But we only did that for a couple of years, and then I got into. I realized the power of social media. Right? Again, what was my superpower? And it is communicate, connect, and interact with people. And the new website that had just come out recently, Facebook, back in the day, there was a lot of use. It was one to many. What a platform, and all the social, like what amazing platforms allowed you to go one to many. So I could do what I did best, and that's connect and communicate and just chat with people, but do it 1 to 100, 1 to 1,000. And once I realized that, I moved into, we did real estate coaching, where we were teaching people to do what we were doing, and had over 50% success rate with it, which in that industry was unheard of. But then it's like, okay. And then I realized, well, how did all these people find me? Well, then they found me because I was doing social media and networking digitally better than the biggest guys in the market. Like, you probably remember Dan Merrill and Fortune Builders and Ron LeGrand and Lou Brown and all these guys. So I was the one running, and we never even talked about this, by the way, but I was the one running their social media behind the scenes, because they're like, how are you getting more attention than we are when we're 1,000 times bigger and better? And they were right. But I understood the algorithm. I understood social media. I understood how to communicate with people. So in turn, that was my first agency. And I was the agency behind all of the digital things that were going out, the Montelongos and, Dan, who was on Flip This House. It was a pretty cool niche. And I've tried to always kind of skate where the puck is going, as they say, the Wayne Gretzky quote. And it worked out in that. And then I was like, oh, so social media is the place to go. And then I started with these big fan pages, and fan pages turned into e-commerce, and e-commerce turned into hard goods. And yeah, the dominoes just kept falling, I guess.
What is your process for seeing where the puck's going to go? Like, again, I guess you're going to say something about time and space and not being so busy that you can't see what's coming.
100%.
Because that is what gets robbed often from business owners, is that they're so busy surviving in it that they don't pick their heads up and see, okay, what's the writing on the wall? Like, how is technology changing it? How is the economy going to change it? How is new insights into their industry going to change how they do business?
Well, the real answer in my mind, it walks hand in hand with what you just said. I think it's paralysis by analysis, right? Like in my whole life, I'm ready, fire, aim. Like we'll figure, learn, fall, what do they say? Fail fast, fall forward, right? I'm not scared of failing. I have really thick skin. I have a really short memory. And for me, it's like, take action, make action, and then measure and then pivot. A lot of folks, especially, there's a lot of A-type personalities that are out there. They have to get it right. They have to think through this. They have to think through it. But Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
We tell our son that all the time.
And the first damn thing that happens in business, you get punched in the face. You get some dumbass that hits you with a TCPA text message, ambulance chaser lawsuit. Now you owe $15K. You're like, wait a minute, this wasn't supposed to happen. Or someone trips on your property. Now you got a suit over here, or your ad account gets hacked or spammed, or all the things. And you spent all this time, oh God, was it like Hemingway back in the day said 80 or 90% of the worst things that ever happened to us only happen in our mind, or something along those lines. Like, it's a great quote, but the whole gist is like, we worry about everything all the time, and most of that stuff never even happens. And I think that's kind of the coolest part about me getting sick 10 years ago was, I got sick and almost died. A ruptured appendix. It wasn't anything crazy, but I took a week to go into the hospital, and that's what almost ruined everything.
And why
And
did it take you a week to get to the hospital?
well, because my priorities were effed up, is the truth of it. I had a
Mm-hmm.
Stanley Cup game the next day. I had the Ferrari to go to my meetings. I had to go to my restaurant. I was so worried about being important to those who didn't matter. Right. When your priorities are messed up, nothing really operates correctly. When your spouse and your family is not your top priority, you're going to have problems. When you're more focused on vanity metrics rather than bottom line dollars, you're going to have problems. When you're so emotionally attached to an employee and you can't fire them even though they suck, you're going to have problems. So it's really a prioritization thing to me. And back in the day, I did not have that. That's now what makes me so protective of my time. It also makes me, and it sounds weird, like pretty fearless. Like I'm not really scared of much. When you really look at you're going to die. We're all going to die. I look at the recent events. I mean, sometimes it's going to happen sooner than we think. And when nothing's really worse than that, in my opinion. So
Did
like,
that
what are we
come to
worried
you?
about?
Did that clarity
What
come to you like right away, or was it after you healed and got home? Was it gradual? I had a
right away?
similar experience in 2021. And so I really kind of want to dive into your experience with this. Like, so you go to the hospital, they tell you you're not likely to live through this. You're still in the hospital and you're questioning everything. Like, just give me a little bit more
Yeah.
of what that experience was.
30% was the number, and that's plenty big enough for me. 1 in 3 chance that they had to go through my back. It was the size of a football. By the time they got to it, it was crazy. And they said, we're going to go through your back, take this thing out. And if we nick it, you're probably not going to make it. You got about a 30% chance. I was like, oh shit. Okay. Well, thanks for the heads up. But I had a new daughter. I had a 6-month-old at home, and I was so busy with work prior to that. I was so busy with work prior to that I didn't really ever get a chance to meet her or hang out with her or play with her or spend the time with her that we needed and should have done. My priorities were messed up. And so it hit me immediately. And it's God, get me out of this, and before I even left the hospital, I was ending relationships. I was ending deals. I was uncluttering my life. And it's I said it the other day. It's like, if your plate's not empty, you can't get fed. Right.
Mhm.
So I just cleared my plate, and it allowed me to get served what I needed when I needed it. And Randall, the guy that invented the bat mug, actually came to me, and he found me through some random Facebook group that I wasn't supposed to be in, because it was all ex Major League Baseball player. It was everything falls in place when you let it. But if you can't see it, if you're so blinded with BS, and if you're hiding behind your facade, you can't see what's being delivered to you. And that's how it all came to be. I realized immediately. I started wiping things out. I started getting rid of people. I realized who I outgrew. I realized who I was just pretending to like because of what I thought it could do for me. It's one thing after another, and you end up living a lie in a
Mhm.
lot of ways. And it's a sickness that goes through business in a big way. And everybody's it's so important. I don't give a shit what other people think about me ever, ever, ever. And so many people do, and they make poor choices in business, financially, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, ethically. And it's all based on something that never should have mattered in the first place. Right. And that whole thing came to me like a wrecking ball in the face. And to this day, it's the best thing that ever happened to me, honestly.
Yeah. So, what would be your advice to a business owner that is not got the wrecking ball yet? They're not sitting in the hospital with something life threatening. What is your advice to have that wake up call and unwind it? Because I understand you're saying unwind and that you're a quick mover. I can tell that already. But it did take time. I'm sure it took time, months, reorganizing your life, your schedule, figuring out where the money's going to come if it's not from those things. Like, there was a lot of undoing. And I just recently did an episode about the badge of being busy and how a lot of people see that as their identity, or they link it to that's what the vision of success is, and people that are successful are busy. So what is your advice for someone that's like, man, I see myself in Kris's story, but I don't want to be on the surgery, in the surgery room with my life on the line?
Here's the thing is control is an illusion. So if it's going to happen to you, it's going to happen to you. Thinking you can control everything, that's the fastest way to just get completely stressed out. Money is an illusion. Control is an illusion. I think it's twofold. There's two things I would say. And I feel like such a broken record saying this, but maybe it's only me. And maybe it's because I say it so much to every single person. And hopefully it's new, fresh information for anybody listening. Stop and reflect on who you are, what you represent, like who you are, who you aren't, what you stand for, what you don't, what you want, what you hate, what lights you up, what are you great at, and what do you absolutely suck at, right? You have to, like, if you don't know these things, and it doesn't take you already know, that's the reality. You're just busy burying it, 3 feet deep in your chest. You have to start living more in alignment with who you are and what you represent. And it's so refreshing that it doesn't feel like work. Right. And so today, perfect example, we had this call set up right before here. I went down, went for a walk, played some pool. I have a pool table at my house. I played some pool. Sure, I could have been doing a half-assed job of something I'm not good at and getting in somebody's way in my business. But instead, it's like, dude, this is your time. Just stay out of everybody's way and jump in and do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. Right. And I feel like that is what a funny story. And this really happened to me. And I think you'll get it. It's pretty entertaining as well. So I was up in North Carolina. I got some family up there. My wife, we all went horseback riding up a mountain. And I'm a big guy. Like I'm 6 feet, 300 pounds. Like I'm a big dude. And we all pulled up to this horse thing. And they're like, dude, you're too big to get on. I mean, some of these horses, these are like, they're built for going up a mountain. They're like, hold on, we got a guy in the back. And this was like this like a Clydesdale donkey hybrid, big ass horse that they bring around the corner. And he just looked pissed that they drug him up from eating or whatever he was doing to go on this mountain horseback ride. But jumped up on him, dude went up the mountain, down the mountain, snipped at a couple other horses because he was just grumpy, but he went back to his thing. And what's funny about that, and I relate to that story because like, I feel like I'm that horse, right? Like, don't bother me until it's time to take the boss man up a mountain and back. And then I'll go back to doing eating or sleeping, whatever I'm doing. Right. And it's a funny story, but it really, really happened. And I remember I'm always reflecting, right? Like I'm always trying to think about things. I think that's something a lot of people don't do. They just, whether it's their phone, what an absolute devil device that thing is, but their phones or these shows or whatever distracts them from like thinking. We're so intelligent as a species. Like, why aren't we thinking more? Right. So I always like to reflect on that kind of stuff. And I tell people to reflect more because if what really lights you up inside is being a coach for a little league team because you're inspiring young minds, right? Then being in a boardroom for 60 hours a week, that's not fulfilling, right? You have to know what lights you up and you have to know what completely extinguishes your light. You have to know what you stand for. Like there's plenty of opportunities that come to my plate that are gray area businesses. Yeah, I have a big desk and a lot of stuff comes across it, but I'll tell you what, as soon as it doesn't align with my morals, my ethics, my who I am, it's an immediate no. It doesn't matter what the money is or what it could be, right? Because I feel like I've spent so much time understanding who I am specifically that I'm not going to get off that track because it takes time, energy, effort, and money to get back on it. And I think if more people did that, the number one advice is just spend more time understanding who you actually are, what you're actually trying to do, and what actually matters to you. And focus on that.
So when did you start your current business? So when did that deal come across your desk, or the idea, and how did that align with who you are and who you know you are now?
Yeah, so 2016, Randall and I had a conversation. He had invented a bat mug. He took a bat barrel and hollowed it out and turned it into a mug. And he's like, "Hey, dude, I got an idea. I want to talk to you about it." And I was like, "All right." So we sat down, we talked about it, and I said, "Okay." And I cut my teeth in apparel. I did really well with print on demand apparel. So to me, it was just a blank canvas. When he showed it to me, I was like, "Oh, so I could put anything on this." I was like, "Okay, I think I see a path for this thing." And but I said, "Okay, we're gonna have to quit your job if we're gonna take this thing for a ride." And he did, and we did. But to me, how I measured it and how did it align with me? Did I see somebody else that was a good owner operator? Yes. Did I see somebody else that was willing to just go all in, no excuses, get dirty, literally, figuratively, just get filthy and make this thing happen? I did. Was it in alignment with me having fun? I get to do beer and baseball and hang out with celebrities and athletes. I'm like, okay, check mark. Can I do it from my home? This is my home office. Yes, I can do it from home. No, it doesn't take time away from my kids. Yes, I can play with my friends. Yes, people in my network can immediately impact this deal. Like these are the check boxes
Mm-hmm.
that I look at before pulling the trigger. It didn't even have to do with money, because if all these other things are happening, the money's gonna. I always say all the time, say chase the happy, not the money, because if you do it right, you're probably gonna get both. Right. And that's what, I would chase the happy. We're having fun. We're being loud. We're acting stupid. We're basically wearing pajamas to work. I get to take my kids to school. You know, the events in this, every one of these is autographed by a player that I've worked with or still work with. Right. It's really fun what I do. And it's like, okay, this is meeting the criteria of the next chapter of my life. And ironically, when I met Randall, we were at 70,000 in sales, and today we're over 55 million. Three-time Inc. 5,000, 3 consecutive years. I was just on Good Morning America. I've been on World News Tonight a couple of times, Fox and Friends Live in New York a few times. We make mugs for presidents and governors and team owners, and we're on TV, and it's just crazy from a cup made out of a bat, right? So it's so much in alignment. I get up fired up to do it every day, and everybody around me kind of feels that same thing. And I don't know, it just feels right. I mean, I have a golf company as well, but again, I golf all the time. I like golf and
Mm-hmm.
cigars. So I have a golf and a cigar line. I try to find things that fit my life, and then I just bring them in.
How did he know that you were the person to partner with? Like,
I have a pretty
I'm
good
just
track record.
curious. Yeah, right. So, but you mentioned briefly, like you guys met but weren't supposed to meet in this Facebook group. So somehow you were presenting yourself,
Mhm.
and it occurs to me that you probably knew damn well what your superpowers were at that time, and that's how
Mhm.
you were sharing yourself. And he saw an opportunity to partner with you.
Yeah, so we did about $20 million in sales of T-shirts, print on demand. Back in the day, like 2012, 13, the POD print on demand T-shirt craze was all over the place, and I was one of the godfathers of that. And like I brought it all to the social media and marketing. We did real well, and there was articles written about me and that kind of thing. But again, what I think really it was is Randall and I are very similar. Our personalities are very similar, but very different in the areas where they needed to be. He's
That's like a
meticulous.
really good combination for a marriage too. I would describe
Yeah.
that we are similar in value and thinking of how you see the world, but so different. And that's a good partnership.
Yeah. Well, our similarities were that there was no excuses.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't bitching about a bunch of stuff. It's like, dude, if you say you're going to get it done, get it done. Both accountable, both gritty, both smart. I'm really good front man. Like put me on a stage, I'm on TV. I don't care. Let's bring it, biggest stage, better. The bigger, the better. And Randall's like, dude, I'll live in a shadow and never leave the house. But I really like, ones and zeros and numbers. I'm like, dude, perfect. Right. So where we were different was important, and where we were similar, it was important because, you're only as strong as your weakest link, that old cliche, but it's true. Right. And I think that's what why Dugout is still doing well, is because we are a fairly small organization, but we're operating without, like, everybody just levels up to the person next to them. And I think that creates a culture of success. And I think it starts with me in a big way.
What have been some of the challenges with such huge growth just in revenue? You're saying that you're still it sounds like a lean team, but
Yeah.
huge in revenue growth. That sounds amazing. Everyone's like, yep, I want that. But do they want that? And what was that path? How quick did it happen? What challenges came with that?
Yeah. So again, an individual's journey and success as a journey is unique. That's important. You write that down. Like, it's unique to you. What does success look like and feel like to you? Is it 20 hours a week, $150,000 a year, and you all your bills are paid and your house is paid off? Like, what is the unique journey look like? And then you'll realize that if you're always trying to measure your success with somebody else's ruler, you may never get to where you think you were supposed to go, but you passed it 5 years ago because that was your happy place, right? I think everything comes back to reflection. I would say some of the mistakes that I made would be, or the growth, the too much growth too quickly. And Jason, a friend of mine, he had a saying where he said, it's not what it makes you, it's what it costs you. And there's a tipping point where you go past something and it ends up costing you more for that additional growth than what it was worth to you. And knowing where that line is pretty important. If we can just hum along at a $10 million a year with a 25% bottom line, EBITDA, $2.5 million net a year, and we're running on a 15-person team 5 days a week, no overtime on holidays, like, that's a clean operation. Now, when you want to jump it, let's go to 15. Well, now 15, now you have 2 shifts. You have an extra warehouse space. You have logistics, could be a nightmare. You can't get enough product from one of the manufacturers, so now you have to go to 2. So now there's differences in quality control. In my business in particular, these are things that can happen. So for us, I think the last, we went first year, 1.1, 2.5, 7.5, 9, 13.5, like $13.5 million selling cups is crazy, right? But what we realized is that we were inefficiently spending marketing dollars because we were focused on the growth, not the bottom line and the margin and the effectiveness of the dollars spent. Right. And I'm telling you, you start paying down $250,000 a month Amex bills, like, that'll change your perspective on some things. All you have to do is miss once and you're screwed. Right. You're in a real hellhole. So for me, it was more about doing more with same, is how I explain it to like, how do we do more with the same amount of people we have, with the same amount of budget we're spending, with the same. And what we've done is really started to focus on development and product development, like where we take baseballs and we cut them in half and turn them into bottle openers, or the home plate coasters, right? The complementary products. We started taking and we started turning bat slices into ornaments and keychains, right? But this right here used to be trash. When we would burn a mug or something, it would just get thrown away. Well, now we take that same bat and we turn it into 7 of these. So it's about getting more efficient is the plan now. We're even moving into a new facility soon because it's 4,500 square feet smaller, but it's twice as efficient. Like, what a dream scenario. We were able to cut $50,000 a year in overhead, go into a smaller space that's easier to operate, that's newer and cheaper and more efficient, right? So I think paying attention to efficiency is as important as growth. And that was one of the biggest mistakes we made.
I couldn't agree more. What about leading people? So you had mentioned that you do your thing, do it great, get out of the way. But that means
Yeah.
that you're surrounding yourself with other people that are doing a lot of the day-to-day, the operational, whatever that team looks like. How do you find the right people? How do you pour into them? What leadership advice do you have? Because I will be honest, I think this is one of the biggest challenges with small business owners is feeling like they can find the people that have their back, that they can trust, that they can delegate to, that get the job done better than they can do the job. What's your advice?
That's interesting. So I did a talk a long time ago, but it's still very true today, and it's in relation to time and productivity. And am I going to find somebody that's a better salesman than me in my business? Not likely, right? But if I can find 4 people to do half as good as I can, that's still 200%, right? I could double the output by getting 4 people that half-ass things. And it's just understanding numbers like that. Um, it comes down to time again. Like, am I going to try to do that's one of the biggest problems I see is everybody's trying to wear every hat. And it's like most of the stuff you suck at anyway. Like there's a reason they don't let me even near the financials. One, I hate it. Two, I'm gonna try to do the math in my head. Like they're like, dude, just stop, stay over there in your lane, and understanding where your lane is, right?
Mhm.
As far as hiring in particular, it- you know, hire a person and teach them a job. Rather, like I think you can get some real. I mean, our people have been there for. I think our newest employees like 5 years, right?
That's
But
incredible.
what so the guy that's running, and I'll tell you a little bit about our team. Like the guy Eric who runs the laser division, the warehouse manager, he used to run like commercial kitchens, right? Like talk about systems and processes and people. And when shit's on fire, you're just level anyway. You're level. This guy has like the demeanor of Eeyore, right? From Winnie the Pooh. He's just,
Mhm.
hey, dude gets it done. He never gets
Mhm.
hyped. He never gets bummed out. Like, dude's just on it. And the thing wouldn't run without him. Like, perfect. Then George, who runs logistics up front, he's OCD, perfectionist. Like, before he's gone, everything on his desk is lined up before he leaves for the day. But this kid doesn't miss, right? He doesn't miss. Like our errors are sub 1% because this guy doesn't miss. Jared, a guy who's running our operations, he's 23 years old, right? Very young guy, but Jared never drank alcohol, doesn't drink anything with carbonation, works out a half a dozen times a week, graduated with a MBA in finance. I'm like, you're my guy. You want to talk about just just uh, just dedication and
Mhm.
discipline? Who do you
Mhm.
want running operations? Right. So those are just a few examples of what I'm talking about. Like hire the person and teach them the job because nobody's in line. Nobody's on bat mug day at career day. No one knows what the hell that even is. So you have to find people like what would the traits be for this person for this role that I need? Salespeople, great for car salesmen or dropouts, people who have been forced to make it happen. I love those people.
Yes.
I love them.
I'm
I
so
am
glad
them.
you said traits. As I was hearing you, I was like, you're describing your team in all character traits that
Right.
cannot be trained. Those traits are who they are, and then you train them the skill set of doing the job.
Yeah. Fat people don't jump hurdles. Right.
Mhm.
People who can't swim don't swim triathlons. That's not what we're built to do, right? I'm not jumping hurdles. I'm not built for that. I'm closing sales. I'm doing that. That's what I'm built for. So understanding, again, it's reflection. The disc assessments and pick your assessment. There's a few of them, but like those things, they tell you about who that person is. And when people tell you and show you who they are, believe them,
Mm,
right? If they're not trustworthy, they're never going to be.
that's right.
If they're scared to talk to people, they're gonna suck at sales. Right. Like I think just understanding people all the way back to people, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's not an accident. Everything's around people, communication, relationships. just interpersonal skills. Like you got to just understand people. And when you do that, and I think that's actually from a leadership standpoint, why I feel like I've had success in several arenas is because I am a visionary in a lot of ways, and not like some hokey ass visionary. I can I put myself in the shoes of the potential client, the customer, the employee, the brand, and I can see something, but my ability to explain it to others in a way that they can see it too, that has been by far my best management trait. Like I go down to the warehouse maybe 3 times, 4 times a month, right? They don't even see me. They don't need to see me. We're all looking at the same mural on the wall.
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
where we're going. That's what it looks like, feels like, smells like, sounds like. Okay, we all see it. Okay, we're all on the same page. Okay, see ya. I'll be in Vegas. I'm going to go do a trade show. I'm going to go to a celebrity event. I'm going to go do this or do that. I'm going to be in my sphere of impact. That's where I'll be, and they know I'll be there, right? Just like I know that they'll be in their lane doing what they're supposed to do. And I think
Yeah.
when people have that kind of understanding of their value, they own it.
What would you attest to being the low turnover? So your newest person's been there for 5 years. What advice do you have for someone that's listening that says, I would do anything to have these long-term loyal, and maybe you've already mentioned it, but what would you attest that to?
Well, I think you have to be somewhere somebody wants to be, right? Culturally, like I hate micromanaging and people hate being micromanaged. That
Mhm.
probably makes it a pretty comfortable place to be. I'm clear with my expectations. I'll hold them accountable just as they'll hold me accountable.
Yes.
A manager a long time ago said to me, never ask anybody to do something you won't first do yourself, right? They see me in there midnight at Christmas, sweating, going crazy, got my kids in there packing boxes, like we're just getting it. No excuses. First one there, last one to leave, right? And I think when you lead by example and they understand it's a team, and for owners of businesses to think that the company runs without you, the company will run without you. You get hit by a bus today, it might not be very pretty, but it'll still keep rolling.
Mm.
Everybody in the company quits, it stops rolling instantly, right? So understanding the value that people bring to the table is, it's paramount, and treating them as such. Um, Talk to people and communicate with people with the intent to listen, not the intent to reply. Go in and ask, "Hey, George, what's going on, dude? How are you? How's your significant other? How's your dog?" Right? Care. Nate, the guy that does our lasers, he does stand-up comedy on the side. "Hey, man, where have you been performing lately? We're gonna
Mm.
get the whole crew together and come support." Things like that, right? I feel like people want to be seen, heard, loved, and respected. And if you could achieve that, the rest of it kind of handles itself. And I think the culture that we built there is it's that's the secret sauce, and that's not really that big of a secret. We have one lady, she, I think Milagros, like in her 60s, Spanish, barely speaks any English. Right next to her is Tina, she's in her 60s, old country gal. Then we got a military guy over here, Tony's probably in his 60s. Then we got the two brothers, then we got George. Like everybody's just so different,
Mm.
right? But it works. So we don't have the same interests. We don't have the same conversations. We just work, right? And I think it comes down to culture, and not enough people are focusing on culture.
One of the things that you had mentioned was sharing this vision and bringing everybody together, and
Yeah.
everybody is universally working in their sphere of impact on that united vision. So this is a two-part question as we wrap up, is what's next for your company and what's next for Kris? Like, what are you excited about? What's the next evolution on the horizon?
Well, the company, Recently, well, not recently, almost 2 years ago now, I bought my partner out. He was ready to retire, move on. He just had a kid, gorgeous little boy, and he wanted to, got his new house and his wife and his son. And I was like, dude, retire. You did well, buddy. You started a thing. You turned it from a kitchen sink, and now you're a millionaire. Congratulations, American dream. And but me, I'm a decade his senior. I was like, I'm in my 40s. I mean, best case scenario, I exit too, and then I have to work 5, 6, 7 more years to build another thing that's right back where I already am. I was like, you know what, dude, I'll just take the bumps and the bruises and fix the broken cracks and holes. And there were plenty. And but to me, you gotta understand what my currency is, right? Living a lifestyle by design. As long as my bills are paid, my wife's happy, my kids are happy, I'm having fun. Like I'm winning, right? And all of that's being achieved right now. So, um, from a tactical, like strategic side of things, the business we're going to continue to develop. I'm playing with some new ideas. We're putting bottle openers in the bottom of the mugs, trying stuff like that. We're adjusting. We've taken some of our coasters with bottle openers in the bottom, just playing with new ideas, right? And trying to, we have over 1 million customers. So we have to make sure we keep bringing the goods and building the community that we've worked so hard on to this point. I think the corporate gifting world is a blue ocean in front of us. We've made mugs for Coors and Miller and Corona and Coke and Pepsi and Hard Rock and Yamava and like Fox, like you name it. We've done some really cool stuff, T-Mobile and Capital One. But these middle-sized companies that have 50 to 500 employees, or financial advisor companies that want to send appreciation gifts to people, I think that's a really sweet spot that we haven't touched on, because so much of what we do, because we're e-commerce, is cyclical and seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
So like Mother's Day, Father's Day, opening day, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, playoffs, Christmas, we're going to kill it. But it's all those other times. Right. And we have people that are working for us for all those other times. So for me, I think it's about trying to fill the gap. And that's going to be corporate gifting, wedding, 5th anniversary, things that are, more annualized. That's, I think, where we're going to be with that. And then also some international distribution. There's a few pieces. Our mugs are currently sold in a few other countries, but I think really developing that model makes a lot of sense.
Great. And how about for you personally? I know you said that you're there. You're like living the dream. You're in dad mode. I know that you just said pick up the kids and drop them off, and if they play sports and stuff. Do you think any of your kids are going to get into entrepreneurship if they have seen dad and they've grown up in the business and seen the inside workings of being a business owner?
Definitely. My oldest, my youngest, she's still 5. She still wants to be a princess and wear dresses and high heels everywhere. Made me promise on her birthday to take her to Paris. I'm like, oh my God, this one's going to be expensive. But my oldest is, she's nails. I mean, she's had a Roth IRA since she was 8. She's been on payroll for 3 years. She works her little ass off, makes money, bought her first bike, wants to set up the lemonade stand, never worried about hard work, making money, buying her own stuff, very independent. She goes to work with me when she's off of school. She works. She works. She works better than most people. 4, 5, 6 hours of straight getting it done, making money, investing half of it, the other half of it going and buying stuffed animals, or whatever the hell a 10-year-old does. But I feel like I'm trying to give her the things that I really didn't have. My parents didn't. They worked, right? Like they didn't have the knowledge to share with me. So I'm trying to do that and break that mold for my kids. And the more, she's invested in SpaceX, right? At 9, she's invested in other companies and things at 9 and 10 years old. She has a portfolio at 10, right? So I think just being around that is going to just drive her into business. She's a little CEO. Like even at school, she's directing. She's like, you're going to go here. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. I thought about this. Negotiating with the teachers, and they're like, she's going to be a handful, buddy. I'm like, yeah, no, in a good way, right? So if I build something special and she wants it, she can have it. If she wants to do her own thing, God knows she's going to kill it. The little one's an absolute fireball. So yeah, what's up for me is I'm just going to keep playing with these kids until, God has other plans. And, and I, celebrity events and athlete events and golfing and
Enjoying it.
hopefully fishing I feel like I'm too young to retire, but I also don't believe in work-life balance. I think life is life and you're working sometimes,
Hmm. It
I
seems
don't
like
want
you've
to
done a really
differentiate the two.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it seems like you've done a really good job of integrating the two. So it's not like, oh, you
Yeah.
work all week to find joy on the weekends, you find joy at work, you include your kids and family in the business, that it's all integrated, everything that
Yeah.
matters to you.
Well, again, you get back to delayed gratification or yeah, I remember watching my mom and stepdad cry because I wasn't going to college. I'm like, dude, that ain't for me. Oh, you're never going to die. Yeah, I will, but it just ain't what you think, right? And
Yeah.
and having the confidence to do that. Um, yeah, I didn't care for the delayed gratification. And look what would have happened 10 years ago. What if I didn't make it through that? And I put it
Mhm.
all into getting ready for some fictitious thing down the road. That's stupid.
Have they come
You
back
know,
around and made any comments on your decision of not going to college now that they see how this turned out?
I mean, they still laugh about it because
Yeah.
I mean, again, man, this just indoctrination of schools, which is a whole nother podcast we're not going to dig into, but it's foolish.
Yes.
It's creating people to operate in a world that doesn't really exist like that anymore. And when a perfect example, I go to my kid's school and they're like, "Oh, we're doing a parent teacher conference." Her this that now, mind you, all her marks are she's 20-30% above average. But I asked them, like, how is she communicating with other people? And I remember the teacher's like, what the hell kind of question is that? I was like, how is she with other people? She's like, she's everybody's friend. She's always talking, always this, always that. And I'm like, all right, cool. Because I know that's going to take her further than understanding long form math. I mean, I
Yes.
could ask, I mean, tell me a device that you can't just, I could ask a question and a device in your house is going to answer me, right? Like, because it can hear
Chris,
me.
I couldn't
I
agree
mean, come
more.
on.
I'm raising a 15-year-old, and I had just had this conversation on the way to school when I was checking in on his grades, and I said, "Son, since you were in preschool, you were a toddler. I know never worried about you academically. I always asked if you were a good friend." That's what they would call it
Yeah,
in like preschool is being everyone's friends. Well, bring your friend. And I said, being a good friend meant that you were developing your own character. Are you treating people well? Can you
right.
communicate? And for me, I agree with you so much. Someone just asked it, like it was a social event where all our kids are around the same age. They're like, "Well, what college is your son going to?" And I said, "I don't know, but whatever he figures out, he'll be great at. Like, he's gonna figure it out." And
Yeah.
that's our opinion too, is that there's not just one path. And we're totally, this is a totally different podcast, but I couldn't agree with you more, is that this is about the character that we're building in the next generation. It's about showing them ways in which things can be done that are not just like connect all the dots, here's the path laid out for you.
Yeah.
But really everything that you shared with us, Kris, was about, being able to pivot, being able to show up in your best character traits, treating people like they're your friends because they are, and building your network and
Be a
caring
helper.
about people.
That's what I tell my kids, be a helper. And it's the same thing in
Yes.
business, same thing in life and relationships. Be a helper.
Great. Well, Kris, thank you so much for pulling back the curtain and sharing with us your own entrepreneurial journey and the bumps and the bruises and the exciting things that you have for you in your future. But most importantly, really highlighting that you are creating a business by design, a life by design that is prioritizing what matters most to you. I think that a lot of our listeners will find inspiration from that experience. So thank you
I
so
hope
much for
so.
being here, Kris.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
I have loved having you listen to this episode of the Small Business Straight Talk podcast. And I sure hope you found the behind the scenes conversation with Kris to be incredibly valuable. But I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So I'm actually going to give you the same take action challenge I did last week in last week's episode, because I think it's incredibly valuable. And perhaps if you're doing this each week, taking action, I bet you could use yet another 30 minutes blocked out on your calendar of real protected time to answer the question, what does success look like for you? Take a walk, get curious, make the intention that you are wanting to explore, not for anybody else, not for your spouse, your friends, your peers, your beliefs based on how you grew up and your extended family, but for you. What does true success look like for you in both your business and your personal life? I want you to get really specific. I want you to write it down, and then I want you to use that clarity to evaluate everything in your business and life. But on this podcast, we're really talking about business. Evaluate where you're at. What is your reality now? And the gap between what your reality is now and what your vision of success is, that's the goal. That's the work. That's the change in the business to make your vision of success actually your reality. And I also want to remind you that we have a free resource. I mentioned it last week, and I want to make sure that you have grabbed that. It's a look ahead a year from now. It's a guided reflections that will walk you through defining your vision of success, both for your business and personal life. This guided reflection document was so that you do not need to look at a blank piece of paper. And I created this because what I do know is that sometimes it's easier to identify what we don't want than it is to identify what we do want. But if it rolls off your tongue and is easy to answer the things that you do not want, what is not your vision of success, oftentimes the opposite is what is your vision of success. So be sure you grab that by heading on over to amberdelagarza.com/look ahead. Again, that's amberdelagarza.com/look ahead. And another reminder, if you're an interior designer or window treatment specialist and you want support getting clear of your vision and then building a complete strategic plan to create it, then that is exactly what we're doing in my event coming up in Nashville, VIP Business Planning. This will be December 2nd through the 5th, and we start with this one powerful question. Get clear on your vision of success, and then build the entire strategic plan from that foundation. Spots are extremely limited. At the time of recording this episode, we're down to 2 spots left. So if you've been sitting on the fence, you are interested, you are curious, you want to learn more, then head on over to amberdelagarza.com/business planning to learn more. And if you are new here, I want to welcome you. And I also want to say that if you are not an interior designer or window treatment professional, stay tuned. I do plan on having other events in 2026. This specific event I did make for the interior designers and window treatment professionals. But as you know, if you've been here for a while, I service all service-based business owners in my one-on-one private coaching and other trainings and programs that I have accessible on my website. But unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, this event is for just my interior design audience. And so again, if you are new here, I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time, just hit subscribe. Make sure you don't miss another episode. And if you've been here for a while and you're enjoying this podcast, be sure you leave me a review. I honestly appreciate the reviews. They help others understand what they can expect from the podcast. It helps get the name out and the podcast out to other business owners who I think I can serve and provide value to. And if you also would be so kind to do so, share it with another business owner who you think would find it valuable. I think that Kris's story was incredibly impactful. It was raw. It was honest. And I am certain that you may know another business owner who would find value from hearing his story. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.